here. Wow, this girl is not supposed to be facing back on Facebook. Hello, friends. This is Universal Sister Anne of God. I'm here for you. How are you guys doing? I hope your day is going well. Yeah, I have a wonderful topic I'd like to share with all of us out there. The lights just went off. Trust Nigeria. Yeah, Nigeria. Anything happens with electricity. So I want us to share some wonderful topic today on TikTok and saying stop selling the sacraments. On Facebook, I said the sacraments are not for sale, neither are they for witch hunting people. Hey, and live on TikTok. So on TikTok, I'm saying the sacraments are not for sale. And somebody would wonder what I mean. What is a sacrament in the first place? When we hear sacrament, we're talking about things in the Catholic Church, right? Sacrament is defined as it is an outward sign of inward grace ordained by Jesus Christ, by which grace is given to the soul. So when people in the church receive the sacraments, they receive God's grace, right? Yeah. So why is it then that people imagine that the sacraments are for sale? How do we sell the sacraments? You would ask. My glasses so I can see who's on TikTok or wherever platform. The sacraments are sold when priests who are the custodians of the sacrament begin to act as if, hi, on YouTube, hi to all those on TikTok. So when priests in the Catholic Church begin to act as if they own the sacrament and can use the sacrament to raise money or even use it to witch hunt people in the church, it becomes an aberration, a serious issue that needs to be checked. Where is all this whole thing coming from? I'm speaking in response to the issue that happens in the eastern part of Nigeria in the Catholic Church, where priests, hi to all those coming up, hi on TikTok. Thank you for joining. Please share the live, like it by simply tapping on the screen. Those on Facebook, when you join, send your love through stars. Those on YouTube, like the video, subscribe, and follow me. So, in the eastern part of the Catholic Church, we have a situation whereby, say, we have a Catholic who is from the eastern part of Nigeria. He or she may not be living in that locality, you know. Say they live outside the country, shores of Nigeria, they live in another state in Nigeria. whereas they may be attending another parish, Catholic parish, wherever they are, and meeting up with obligation of paying tithes, donating, paying levies, and doing all whatnots, and still trust Eastern Nigerians, Igbos, whenever they go for Christmas, for Easter, and the August meeting and so on, they still pay money. They contribute to things happening in the community. So how come is it now that say such a person, say a woman or a man wishes to get married and they go home, they decide they want to wed in the village, or a loved one in that family dies, you know, and certain other things that they may want the church to handle for them. Do you know what will happen? Hi to all those on TikTok. Thank you. Like the video, please. Now, say someone dies. That's an apt example. You know what the priests are going to say to the people? They send a message to them that they have to come to the village parish to pay up all the levies that they haven't been paying. You don't live in the village, you pay levies in another parish, wherever you are. And then somebody will die. They will tell you, if you don't pay your levy from January to December of that year, they're not going to bury your loved one. How is that going to be to you? How will you take such, which is not allowed? There's nowhere in the code of canon law of the Catholic Church that the church says if someone dies, when you take them to their village parish, they have to pay a levy. And they don't even care whether you may not have the money. They must insist that you will pay that levy before they will bury your loved one. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And many bishops in other parts of Nigeria, when they go for their meeting, they always raise this issue that the sacraments are not for sale. If you insist that somebody will pay a levy before someone else is buried, you want to sell the sacraments. Every Catholic has obligations, they have their roles to play, they have responsibilities, and the church also owes every Catholic the responsibility that if any baptized Catholic dies, that person must be buried with all the full rights in the church. Whether you pay money, you've been paying levy, you've been giving offertory, you've been contributing in whatever form or not. Hence, you are a baptized Catholic, a communicant, a confirmed Catholic. You must be buried in the right way with all the rights in the church. And that is what these Igbo priests fail to understand. I don't know how somebody will go to the seminary and spend 10 years and you don't know how to run the affairs of the church. You think because you are a priest, you are now God. Whereas as a priest or man of God, thank you, thank you on TikTok. Because you're a priest, you think you are becoming God. And whatever me to pay any sort of fee 3 weeks or even 1 month, 3 weeks or even 1 month or two before the marriage, we aunts. This months or two before the marriage, we aunts. This person wants to wed this person. If you know anything we know in the church, come and tell us. If that 2 months elapse and there is no information that this person should not marry this for whatever reason, so we don't mention that in our weddings. So don't be surprised if they say what they want to do. Bands. Do you know this man before? Is he married and now he wants to be a priest? Come and tell us. So if you don't tell us, we go ahead with the ordination and the marriage. So the priests in the eastern part of Nigeria fail to understand that people are beginning to learn more about the Catholic Church. Lay people like myself are beginning to get degrees in pastoral ministry, and we want to work and collaborate with priests priests in the Catholic Church. Yes, many Nigerians may not be aware of it, even though we have some women who are catechists. All they do is just to in catechism say women in Africa, in Nigeria, women in other parts of the world as we speak are discerning a call and praying that women can be ordained deacons or deaconesses. Because in the first century church, they had deaconesses, people walking with the apostles and disciples. St. Paul even affirmed one St. Phoebe. Check Romans chapter 16, verse 1 to 2 following. You'll get the gist. That woman was the one who carried the Romans, that reading we call Romans, to the Romans to proclaim the word of God, to preach. Yes. So women can preach. I belong to so many groups who meet on Zoom, where we're learning how to preach, how to do many ministerial work that before or even now some priests and people who are ignorant about what is happening with women in ministry say is wrong. Women should know their place. Why? We just had the conclave where the Pope was elected. 163 men, cardinals, were the only ones in the Sistine Chapel. How does that feel? What does that say to you that women are not recognized in the church? Even if a woman cannot be made a cardinal, of which I tell you, women were made cardinals. To be a cardinal is just something like you are recognized in the church. It's not as if it is a hierarchy in the church. That thing called cardinal is not a hierarchy, it's like a gift, a conferral. Even when someone is not a university student, they confer degrees on them. That is how becoming a cardinal is like conferring on a priest who has done well, who is doing well. A woman can be made a cardinal, but we're not dragging that. So we're just asking, how come 163 cardinals, men, were the ones in the Sistine Chapel electing a pope that will lead men, women, children, and everybody in the church? Does that make sense? Women are not saying they want to be cardinals, but I'm just asking, on the whole, Catholic women, Catholic faithful, does it make sense that only men in this age and time make decisions on behalf of the faithful? So, some women, about 20 or 15 of them, were at the Vatican a few days before the election happened. They had some kind of candles or stuffs like that. Theirs was bringing out pink smoke. So you can say pink is for women and all that. They had their pink flame and they were saying women have a say. Women have a say. They have to listen to women. They were even saying that women should be listened to. Or, they have a sort of forum where they discuss in the Sistine Chapel before the election happens, how the church can be moved forward and all that before they go into election proper. So they were saying they should have invited women to say what was on their mind before they elect a new pope. But women are locked out of the Sistine Chapel. Only men who are cardinals make the decision on behalf of women in the 21st century, heading to the 22nd century. Does that make sense? The former Pope was talking about signs of the times, which the church has in its Vatican II documents, saying how the church can move forward in the new age, walking along with people with the diverse situations we find around the world today, like the issue of the LGBTQ and many other issues that require a sort of inclusion of all those, even though sometimes we are always thinking that people are sinners, whereas all of us are sinners. No one is better than the other. He's gay, she's gay, inya, inya. Are you better than the person? No, not one is perfect. So how can we Can only men continue to make decisions for women in one of the greatest churches, the church that says is the first holders? How does someone have a PhD and you're not open to the sign? How does the church come into that picture? Former Pope Benedict had 5 cardinals have PhDs, and yet they are not open to what the world is saying. Why do you need a PhD in the first place if your heart or your mind is not open? Enough of the long story. Back to where we began. In the eastern part of the church in Nigeria, when someone dies, you don't live in the village. You live in another country or in another state in Nigeria. They will insist that you pay. Oh, I have a flash on TikTok. They will insist that you pay levies, say from January to say December, where you want to have your funeral. Is that not like witch hunting? That's called witch hunting. You're like using the sacraments. Three gift send donuts. You're live in 15 minutes. So you're witch hunting people by withdrawing the sacrament from them and telling them that you have to pay money before we come and bury your loved one. You're witch hunting. And say somebody who also wants to get married, you will say they have to come and pay a certain amount of money. Somebody wants to baptize a child, you will tell them to pay a certain amount of money. Are you not selling the sacraments? And the sacraments are not for sale. What are we saying here? The sacraments are not for sale. Why are you selling the sacrament or using the sacrament to witch hunt? Hmm? So I am on a flay on TikTok. All those who will be on this live. Hi, Ayunin, Neela. If you send me donuts, then I'm gonna have a gift or so on TikTok. So I need my viewers to send me 3 donuts only, just 3 donuts. Assume that you're sending the donuts to me for my lunch. It's almost lunchtime in Nigeria, and I'm in Nigeria. So send me my donuts, those on TikTok, those on Facebook. Send me stars. It's not a big deal. Send creators some stars. Those on YouTube, follow, subscribe. Okay? It's good to encourage content creators. So we're talking about burying people, wedding people, baptizing people, and any other sacrament or something you would wish to get from the church is being withheld in the eastern part of Nigeria by so-called priests who think they're the only ones who know what is happening in the church. There's nowhere in the Code of Canon Law, which is the law book of the Catholic Church, that it states that if somebody dies and is brought back from another location or jurisdiction or from another diocese, they have to pay a levy for more than 10 months or thereabouts, or even more, before you bury the person. There is nowhere in the canon law. Igbo priests, we are telling you, stop acting as if you know so much about the church. Share this video, let it go viral. This thing is important. Many of you, this story has touched you. Many Catholics have left the Catholic Church because of these incidents. Someone told me a story. He used to be a Catholic. Now he's a pastor in a Presbyterian church. That the reason he left the Catholic Church was when his mom died. A woman who used to be very serious in church activities. They brought her body for burial, and the church, the priests insisted that they must pay a levy. Hi, city. They must pay a levy of how much I do not know. They insisted vehemently, and they eventually paid up. And then he decided to leave the Catholic Church. He says, how can me, a full-fledged member of the church, my mother, everybody knew her in this women's movement, coming to church every day, doing her part. The time comes for you to bury her and you are demanding for heaven and earth. That is witch hunting. Well, you can only treat people who do not know their ways in the Catholic Church. That's why, friends, wherever you find yourself, try to know everything about such a group. So nobody comes and puts salt or pepper inside your eyes or treat you as if you are a fool. Catholics, Catholics. I can't co-host on this topic. Except, no, the person is not a Catholic. I'm talking about the problem within a certain jurisdiction. It's not a social issue I'm discussing. You know. So, Catholics, church documents, church books are all over the place. They are not hidden like in the first century that Catholics may not have had access to the Bible and many other documents. Church documents are all over the place. Go into a big Catholic bookshop, buy the books. If you cannot buy the books, go online and look for e-books. Buy books on the Catholic Church. We have a book called The History of the Catholic Church. There are different editions written by different authors. Look for one of the histories of the church. To know rules and regulations in the church, you need the Code of Canon Law book. You can still check everything online. The Code of Canon Law. Go there, read about the laws of the church. History, law. Two, one more important book is Vatican. But in Africa, in fact, if not a parishes have bank accounts, maybe the monies will be paid into the accounts of priests. And at the end of the day, they misuse those funds. In the eastern part of Nigeria, Catholics try a lot. The rich ones, they build churches and parishes. You know, somebody, one person, two or three will build one church. People, poor people, to pay you money. In the Catholic Church now, we have up to two or three collections on one Sunday. Tomorrow, they will open their mouths and call on government. Right from when this whole issue, when Tinubu came and started, it's like the church even became worse. Three collection, two collection, effort Sunday. Well, first Sunday of the month, they will be raising funds, donating money. At the end of the day, where does the money go to? Don't ask me, ask them. I don't know. So this is what is happening in the eastern part of Nigeria. Depriving people of the sacraments in the name of I am a priest. Is a priest not supposed to be humble, be like Jesus? But the priest becomes a lawmaker, a Pharisee. They're acting like Pharisees. They're acting like Pharisees. People are leaving the church because of this bad attitude of theirs. How can you be levying somebody from the beginning of the year, 1 year, 2 years? You have to pay your levy 4, 5 years. What am I even saying? The matter is very serious. Don't think because I'm just saying it like it's a serious matter. You're supposed to start paying. You will pay the levy before they will bury your person, before you will wed, before you will baptize a newborn baby. Let's say the mother and the father are not wedded. They will prevent the child from birth. The child has nothing to do with what his parents or they are doing right or wrong. No. They crave, they prefer, they desire baptism for their child. Hence, they have a sponsor that is a full-fledged Catholic. The child should be baptized. in the name of the sponsor, not necessarily the parents who are not practicing child from bad to bread. It's terrible. It's terrible what they're doing. And bishops from other parts of the country are complaining. So there was this program I attended some 2 or 3 weeks ago, and a sister asked the question. She's from the eastern part of Nigeria. You're coming to ask us questions that you know about. And then the bishop there in responding was saying, I've broken my pen. They have brought back their lights. They take lights in Nigeria, so there was electricity was taken, but it's back now. So she was asking, in this matter, is it right or is it wrong? But she knows the answer. So the bishop was saying, when they go for their bishop's conference, he tries to mention that matter. And then bishops from the eastern part of Nigeria will be denying it and saying, they don't do that or they don't do that. But they do it. So the bishop said, it's a bad condition that is happening in the East, in the Catholic Church. They need to call their priests to order, and even the bishops themselves who are aware of this aberration and still allow them to continue. People are leaving the church. Instead of them to teach the faith of the church, all they know is money, money, money. That's why some people want to go into priests because they assume that priests are rich. They drive big cars. One of my priests was saying one day, they asked one foolish person who came for interview the seminary, why do you want to be a priest? He says, priests are, up and doing people. They drive big cars. They eat good food. You know what will happen to such a person? They will show him the back door. Go away from the back door. That shouldn't be why you want to be a priest. You should want to be a priest to pray for the world so that sins may be forgiven, that God will bless God's people, not wanting to enjoy life. Priest in the eastern part of Nigeria, you people should repent though. You never can even tell why they're always what do they call it? Kidnap priests. Why are they always kidnapping priests? You know, but know the one where one priest don't go do somebody somewhere, then go hijack them. Then go hijack them. And say, yeah, they're wicked. They're wicked. The wickedness where the priest they do for church, they tell somebody to come pay levy for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years before they go bury your mama or your papa. That one will be wickedness. Which wickedness past that one? Wickedness happening in the church. Bad condition. The sacraments are not for sale. What did you do with the members of the church? Were you not pursuing them from the church, asking them to come and pay you money? At the end of the day, where does the money go? Into the pocket, into the pocket. I'm a Catholic, but I know say sometimes, Father, then they put money into the pocket, into the pocket. They put money into the pocket. If to say then they even use the money where they put into the pocket, they help the poor, if or even better, because I know many bishops, priests who love to help people. You can even call them Papa Charity. If to say now those types they need to even put money for pocket. Now when their friends give them money, their rich friends most times give them money, they will dash the poor. You see some people line up every day. You go to a Catholic parish. If 10 people come to look for father in the office, it's only 3 that are coming to discuss issues in the parish or anything. The remaining 7 are coming to beg money. And some priests will make sure they give all of them something to go home with. If it is those type that are putting money into the pocket, we know what they are using the money for. But the rest of them that are putting money into the pocket, they're using it for themselves and their family members. Bad condition. Even the so-called levy they collect, does it go into the coffers of the church? No. In the Catholic Church, we have this very funny kind of story that was being told with St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence was a deacon in the church. One time the Romans invited him. They said, "Go and bring the wealth of the church to us." He said, okay, I'll bring them. Where do you want us to meet? They said, so and so place. Do you know what St. Lawrence did? St. Lawrence went and gathered all the poor people. Hi. He gathered all the poor people, the lame, every kind of street person you can imagine. They all lined up behind St. Lawrence, and he went and met the Romans, whomever, the governor or whatever, and said, "This is the wealth of the church." This also points to the fact that the Catholic Church is known for its charitable works, you know. But nowadays, how does that take place? Do they still care for the poor? I don't have an answer to that question. But my problem today is to draw our attention to the fact that priests in the eastern part of Nigeria, Catholic priests, sell the sacraments. And there's nowhere in the code of canon law that we sell sacraments. That selling of sacraments was an issue, that came up in the church, which Martin Luther kicked against very vehemently, and why he left the church. You find them selling indulgences. And indulgence is when, let's say, the church has a celebration and they say if you say certain prayers, you're going to have indulgence. So they have the rich people who pay for indulgence. They do it more like donating, or giving money to the church. But eventually, it's like you are buying the indulgence or the sacrament. So that's one thing Martin Luther, who went and formed the Lutheran Church, him and his brother, he wrote out lots of things against the church. One was this situation we're trying to talk about, you know, selling prayer. We don't sell prayer. We don't sell blessing. We don't sell mass. You may hear people say book mass and they give a certain amount. They're not saying that the prayer for that mass is going to be sold for that money. It's just a token you are giving, for the mass. So we don't sell the sacraments in any way whatsoever. These priests should desist from what they are doing before the hand of God will fall on them. These priests should desist from what they are doing before the heavy hand of God will fall on them. See, the Eastern Nigerian Catholic issue of levying and burdening Catholics unnecessarily. When you have a burial, you have baptism, you have a wedding, and so on. They levy you to pay monies from months behind that you're not supposed to pay because you have been worshiping somewhere in another jurisdiction and have been doing what you're supposed to do as a Catholic. If you come back to your own locality and you want to offer something beautiful, but people should not be forced to offer those monies because it's like, in fact, it is selling the sacraments or the prayers themselves, which is not something the church has as a law or rule in any way. Every baptized Catholic has rights to all the sacraments without paying a dime, except they want to give it out of their free will. The sacraments are not for sale, neither should they be used as a weapon of destruction to chase people away from the church. No. to demoralize people who should be mourning their loved ones. This is evil and has got to stop. Please, if you find this video, share it, share it, share it. Let it go viral because this is the very truth and everybody needs to hear the truth. We've talked much about this back and forth. I hope all of us have gotten the message and we shall spread it abroad. Thank you to all those who have joined. You'll be hearing the voice of Universal Sister Anne of God. I've been talking on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube for the past 40 minutes and 47 seconds. We're trashing the issue of levying people, burdening people financially in the eastern parts of Nigeria, in the Catholic Church. Priests burden people to pay money before they can bury their loved ones, before they can wed them, before they can baptize their children. This is evil happening in the church and we need to stop it. Catholics, rise up, know your rights and responsibility as a Catholic. It is because you don't know it, that's why you're being treated like that. To be forewarned, they say, is to be forearmed. Arm the things you need to know as a Catholic. Learn about the church. Everything is out there for you in book form, e-books, on the internet. Go get the books or learn or read about the history of the Catholic Church. Look for the Code of Canon Law. Look for Vatican II documents, the 2 volumes. Read them. We are always busy pressing, ping pong, watching, doing whatever on the internet, wasting data. Use your data to do what will benefit you. You know, go. I don't talk much, so the matter has been trashed. So we shall say our goodbyes. Thank you to the person who joined. Check the remainder that you didn't see this live. Priests are selling the sacrament in the eastern part of Nigeria, and we are saying is a no. Cancel. Tell your priest, any priest you know doing this kind of thing, caution him before God. Will caution him by God's self. Thank you, Fumi Layo. Take care. God bless. That's on Facebook. And on TikTok, I say my goodbyes. Thank you to you, Mr. Skin, Neola, Kayla, Zach Wilson, Slim, Isaac, Sigma, for the gaps, Love Mali, Father. Oh, Father joined my life. Father, how is Italy? I hope you're fine. I seen CD, Ione, Leah, Easton. It's me, David, Josh, Lol, Doing, and all those who joined on TikTok. Thank you so much and stay blessed. I'm ending my live on TikTok. Thank you. Bye. YouTube, and check the other part of the video. But in a nutshell, we were trying to raise an issue that disturbs Catholics in the eastern part of Nigeria. They are making people spend money as if they are paying. In fact, they are paying for the sacrament. It is bad. Ọ dị njọ. Gwafa na ife fa na-eme dị njọ. And Chineke na-ewe iwe. Tell them if they don't want God's heavy hand upon them, They should stop levying people and sending people away from the church in the name of sacrament. Okay. They say you are one step closer to stage 6. Enough. Good. Okay, so bye bye to those on YouTube. Thank you for joining. Free Fire, Malu, David, God bless you.